So good morning, everybody. My name is Jeremy Martin, and today I wanted to show you what's changing in CSI Linux in 2026 and cover the CSI Case Management System update. This is not going to be a normal software update presentation. I'm not here to walk the long package list and show random lists of tools. This is an operational briefing. The real question is not what tools are included. The question is, can an investigator move from allegation to evidence to report to review in a way that is organized, defensible, and repeatable? That is what this session is about. So I did want to cover that CSI has always been built for investigators, analysts, forensic practitioners, cyber professionals, cybersecurity, instant response. But with the CSI Linux update in this year and the CSI-CMS update, the goal is bigger than giving people just the tools. The goal is to help investigators build cases that they can survive review. So with that said, biggest thing is case first, evidence second, and report throughout. It's all about consistency, and we're building a workflow. So the big thing is, a lot of investigators or investigations, they do not have a tools problem. They might have a gap in how the evidence is captured and stored and presented. They have the browsers, they have screenshots, they have exports of certain data. All these tools are going to have different exports. They have notes, and they have evidence folders, and they have reports. But those things often do get scattered. So one of the biggest, strongest things within CSI has always been trying to build a good skeleton for each individual case. This is going to help minimize the possibility of evidence contamination or case contamination. So stuff gets stored into the case folder, and in the case folder there's a bunch of other folders, and then certain evidence gets put into each individual subfolder. So it's all about organization in that instance. So good evidence can still be weakened, unfortunately, by poor processes if you're inconsistent with that. If you're not capturing hash values of each evidence item once you grab the evidence. So it's all about keeping things standardized, keeping them organized, and keeping them defensible. So that's where the biggest investigation gap is consistency, especially documentation and reporting. And the goal is not to collect more screenshots. The goal is to build investigations that can survive a review. And that's why CSI Linux updates this year with the CSI-CMS, Case Management System, that's why it matters. So this is the first major step forward in about 2 years, realistically. We had some minor updates here and there, and I do not want to frame this, again, as just a refresh. Yes, tools matter. Yes, update components matter. Yes, the environment matters. But the big shift here is, with CSI Linux now, is being reframed around the investigator's case lifecycle. That means the case becomes the center of the work. Not the browser, not the terminal, not a single tool or set of individual tools. It's the case. With CSI-CMS, the investigator has a hub for case metadata, notes, evidence records, mini reports, and report outputs. That changes the experience from here are tools that you can use to here's an environment that supports the way an investigation should develop. So, what actually changed in the way that we should think about this platform? First, it's case-centered workflow. It's one of the first of the 5 changes, main changes, where the investigation starts with an allegation, scope, metadata, and structure. That is very different from just opening tools and chasing leads. Second is the CSI-CMS becomes the hub. Notes, evidence report, case details, work records are all tied to an active case. Third is evidence organization. Instead of random folders and inconsistent naming, the case has predictable evidence paths and records. And, again, it gets tied into the evidence management system. Fourth, reporting while investigating. This is important. Reports should not be reconstructed from memory at the end. They should be done throughout the investigation, especially with mini reports. The evidence content should be stored within the application itself, so you can output to a bigger report. The work should become report ready as the case develops. And fifth, training aligned to practice. The labs and certifications on echothislabs.com should not just teach isolated tool usage. They're going to teach how to conduct the work in a repeatable and defensible way. That's the shift. From the CSI Linux platform, with the integration with the new CSI-CMS or Case Management System, and also integration with the training platform. Now let's talk about why this matters from an evidence standpoint. So bad workflows can definitely damage good evidence. Like we mentioned before, simple mistakes. Mistakes can add up. The other potential risk is going to be inconsistencies. So the problem is not what was found. The problem is whether the investigator can explain how it was found, how it was preserved, how it was documented, and how it supports the allegation. It all ties within the allegation, all ties to scope. Screenshots without context become harder to verify, harder to justify. Downloads without hash values invite integrity questions, integrity challenges. Notes separated from the evidence make continuity harder to reconstruct. Tool output stored in random folders makes review and disclosure messy. Reports written from memory increase the chance of error, forgetting things, putting things in there that might have been tied to a different case. And this is where the language matters. Observed does not mean proven. A page was observed, a domain was observed, a username was observed, wallet address was observed. That doesn't automatically prove attribution, intent, criminal contact, or identity. The professional report should explain what the observed, what supports it, what limits it, and what still requires corroboration. That is the discipline of the CSI-CMS designed to support. So with that, how does the CMS help close that gap? Now this is a core slide. On the left, we have what many teams already have: tools, screenshots, notes, leads, findings, exports, and knowledge. Those are valuable, but by themselves are not enough. On the right, we have what investigators actually need: a workflow, preserved evidence, case documentation, evidence classification, defensible conclusions, reports, repeatable processes. So CSI, CMS, that sits in the middle. It starts with opening and creating a case and establishing an active case context. It supports evidence intake, case evidence storage, MD5 and SHA hashing, and the chain of custody fields. It supports case notes and investigator notes, so multiple investigators again on an individual case would have their own notes. It gives structure around evidence type, subtype, evidence numbers, and records. It supports audit logging and timestamps, and it supports templates and report lifecycle. So this is the practical point. CSI-CMS does not replace your judgment. It gives the investigator a structure for proving the work. Again, it's all about process and workflow. So now I want to simplify this even further before we begin the demo. Base workflow, case first, evidence second. We talked about it's always about the documentation. So any evidence that you find, you need to be able to prove for attribution and documentation. So this is the base operational loop. Start a case, track the work, document the case, intake evidence, preserve hashes, maintain notes, reserve the audit log, prepare the report, and that is the core workflow. Notice what comes first? It's the case. Not the tool, not the browser, not the terminal, not the screenshots. It's all about the case, which is going to start with the allegation. The case comes first because everything else needs context. If the case is structured properly, then the evidence has a home. The notes have a home. The audit trail has a home. And a report has a foundation. This is the mindset I want investigators to take away. Case first, evidence second, report throughout. Now, let's put that into... So a quick thing I wanted to cover with this. During this demo, I'm going to show and keep it in narrow on purpose. I'm not going to show every tab. I'm not going to go through every advanced capability. I'm not going to go through, turn this into a tool tour. I'm simply going to go and show the base workflow. Start or open a case, review the time clock, review case information, add case and investigator notes, intake evidence, review hash and chain of custody fields, and look at the audit log, and then connect it to report ready findings. So the reason is simple. If the base workflow makes sense, everything else in CSI Linux and CMS has a stronger foundation. So the first thing I want to do is start with a case. In a lot of investigations, people start off with a browser or tool that feels productive, but when it comes down to it, can create some documentation problems later. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start New Case. This is going to be case tag 003, whatever naming convention your organization uses. I'm going to go ahead and put in my name. And then this is going to be the base case folder. So there's going to be a subfolder called case tag 003. And this is where the evidence is going to be containerized. So think of that as segmented. It's not a true virtual machine container, but it does minimize the likelihood of cross-contamination of evidence. So I'm going to go here and create. Now it's created, the case should pop up. Now, this is where the audit log's coming in. So anything that happens within the CSI Case Management System is going to be dumped into here. We have our case name. We have a priority which we can change. Let's say it's a higher priority. Classification tags. Let's say, again, this is restricted. So you can edit all this content in the settings under agency data. So anything that's related to your organization's classification or priority listing versus your agency information here on the left-hand side. And then, of course, case data is kind of a reminder of what's going on this is going to be here. So next time I save it, priority medium would be updated to high. So we have the case notes down on the bottom here. And then this is the audit log. So again, case notes are just for the case, the entire case. This is not the investigator notes. Now, time clock, we can see at the very top. We've been logged in for a little bit over a minute. Logged in is Jeremy. You can stop time clock. Here it says time clock was manually stopped at this time period. And then when it was started again. So again, if you needed to take a break, if you're not doing anything in the tool, or if you're shut down for the night and not shutting the application, that would be an option for you. Or just switching out users. For example, stop time, switch user, and then it starts with the next logged in user. So the other thing we just talked about with case notes, we're going to jump into investigator notes. So on the notes tab here, these are the investigator notes. For the investigator. So you can save notes once you're done. It should say notes saved at the bottom. If something had changed, you can always hit refresh. But again, going back to switch notes, let's say from Jeremy to another investigator, they would have their own notes section. So going back to it, we have case notes and investigator notes. Now, let's take a quick look at evidence intake. Let's go and add a couple evidence items. Do logical, just regular file. We can put in a chain of custody number. Let's do 0001 just to make it quick and easy. Again, each organization is going to have their own chain of custody content. Going to select an individual file. Let's go and take a picture. Let's do the agency logo. Going to hit OK. As we can see, this is a subtype other logical file. File name, file extension, the file size, when it was added, the hashes for the file, the submitter, the location of where the file currently is, and then we have chain of custody and evidence number. Evidence number is going to be the case name, TAC, one big long number, and of course chain of custody would be whatever you put in there earlier. If you did not put any in there, we'll go ahead and do that real quick. We'll add another file, keeping that empty for now. Let's try this MP4 file. Now we have a video file. Again, we do have the case number, evidence number, and then nothing in chain of custody. So we can right click on it. We could also update chain of custody to match the one that was currently pulled in. You can also do a quick filter, make things a little bit easier to identify certain type of files. And you can also click multiple files. Let's do mark both of these. And then bulk actions. You can do a quick update chain of custody. Instead of 0001, it could be 0001 TAC 0001. And scrolling back, it now has updated content. We can also have data related to the evidence notes. Notes for each individual evidence item. Now, the audit log, going back, we see evidence field, content was added, this evidence item was added, timestamps of each one. So again, anytime that anything's added to the case, it is documenting this for you. And the audit log is going to be huge for verification validation of what you did, when it was done, so it can be tied back to the evidence itself. Now to show a quick section under document templates, we have chain of custody. So once you create it, fill in all the variables in here, and then you can save chain of custody, open the file. We also do have a generic MLAT, a generic missing persons, generic consent to search. So over time, this will be growing as well. And if you go over to, let's do a quick Intel report. What I'll do is, let's look up Elon Musk for username search. So this tool is doing a few tools in the background. So we see kind of its own audit log here, and then evidence items underneath. So what I'm going to do is do a quick full screen so we see a little bit more real estate. And my screen is, what's it, 1600 by 9. So if you have a bigger screen, you're going to see more items. So still working in the background, but let's take a quick look at, say, Patreon. See if it gets us anything. Sometimes you do have a lot of false positives. These checkboxes here are what will show up on the Intel report. So this allows you to verify for potential false positives. It is still working in the background, so I'm just going to do some quick checks. Oh, there we go. We're getting a little bit more. Let's do Instagram. Let's check those. Okay, here it does show somebody as an Elon Musk. At that point, again, you'd find Instagram, and then you can screenshot it, and then check it. For the purpose of the demo real quick, what I am going to do is sync records, which are going to get rid of all the content not related to the checkboxes. Again, this is going to be marked evidence items or verified evidence items. Then once they're synced, go ahead and hit report. So report's going to grab each one of the checked items. And because I hit capture on one, we do see a preview. But again, each one of the intel reports or the mini reports does have content related to the case, what kind of category it was of OSINT investigation, case information, and then, of course, agency information at the bottom. But all in all, that's where the mini reports come in. So biggest thing is demoing essentially a workflow of starting a case, ensuring that all of your evidence is intact. And if we go back to the evidence, we do have this mini report as an evidence item. So not only is it easier to find, but again, it's hashed it, tells us where it's at, which is going to be in evidence/online/social media/account search, the username, report.html. Now switching screens back from the demo. This is what the demo is really about. Before the CSI-CMS, investigators may have random folders. After the CMS, they have structured case directory. Before, notes may be manual and scattered. After the case notes, investigator notes are tied to the active case. Before, screenshots might have been everywhere. After, artifacts are intake and into the evidence tree, evidence management system. Before, source context may be unclear. After, we have the metadata of the case, the files, and an audit trail to be reviewable. Before, hashes may be consistent. After, MD5 SHA hashes are part of the intake process. Before, reports are written at the end. Now, or after, report ready files are already built into the case management system, which can be incorporated into a bigger report or offloaded into smaller intel reports. So this is not a cosmetic change. The change is how the case is built and how the case can be defended with the entire workflow. So with that said, this is where CSI-CMS stops being just software and starts becoming an investigative toolset workflow. So what you can apply immediately is the idea of the workflow within the CSI and CSI-CMS. And I wanted this briefing to be useful even before anyone signs up for anything. Here are some practices investigators can apply immediately. Start every case with an allegation and scope. It's key. Separate leads, intelligence, and evidence. Preserve sources, time, method, and relevance. Keep notes tied to the active case. Hash evidence on it, intake, not after the fact. After the fact would be verification, not as soon as you grab it. Maintain an audit log trail. This is extremely important. Write findings with limitations. Build reports during the investigation, not at the end. And the last point is, a good report should not feel like reconstruction. It should feel like a natural result of well-documented casework. Good investigation practice is repeatable, documented, and reviewable, and defensible. So what I showed today in the demo is a compressed version. This cohort is where we slow things down, practice it, and build on the workflow properly. So this is an invitation. The CSI Linux 2026 founder-led investigator cohort is for people that want to become operational with CSI Linux and the CSI-CMS. This is not a passive video dump. This is a guided operational training. We will work through case setup, evidence intake, OSINT and online evidence preservation, documentation, reporting, and courtroom conscious language. You will get live instruction with me, recordings, office hours, which are additional time after the training for if you need any help or have any questions. You will also get some labs, templates, checklists, and a certification path. The value is not just learning where buttons are. The value is learning the workflow behind the platform. So if CSI Linux has helped you, if you teach investigations if you work cases, if you train analysts, or if your team needs a better way to move from online findings to structured reports, this is a cohort I would want you in. Here is how the 4 weeks are going to be structured. So week 1 is going to cover a CSI Linux setup and a case setup. So again, this is going to build a structured case. Week 2, OSINT and online evidence. So capturing and documenting findings. Also cover a little bit of dark web in here too. Week 3, evidence management. Classify, preserve, and organize artifacts. And week 4 is going to be reporting and courtroom readiness. So what this essentially is going to do is help you word things in a way that a layman can understand. So you're looking at, every time you hear the term courtroom readiness, also think of boardroom readiness. For those of you that are interested in enrolling, the enrollment is straightforward. The launch cohort includes live sessions, recordings, templates, labs, certification path, and office hours. So early individual seats are going to be $497. That is going to be a week before the training. If you do it after or in between the week to the training, then that's going to jump up to $795. For teams, there are agency bundles. So 5 seats, 10 seats, and also private agency delivery. So this can be done for an individual group. Agency invoicing is available for purchase orders, team seats, university groups, public sector buyers, and private delivery. We want to be clear about this. The free webinar gives you the briefing. That's what this webinar was. The cohort gives you the guided implementation. So if you want to learn the workflow hands-on, ask questions, use the templates, build a case, and walk away with a stronger operational process, that is what the cohort is for. The cohort is going to work very similar to some of our online trainings for like the CISL CCFI for computer forensics investigation, the open source intelligence analyst, and the SOCMINT intelligence analyst as well. So the goal is not more tools. The goal is a workflow that survives a review, and also the entire path of understanding how investigations work. So this cohort is going to cover CSI Linux and the CMS as far as a base, and the other training is going to be specific to that type of investigation. So if you're interested in the cohort, here are the next actions. First, enroll in the cohort if you want to guided training, labs, templates, and office hours. Second is request an agency invoice if you need it. This would be for team seats, the organization, or a purchase order, private delivery, or institutional access. Third would be join the CSI Linux 2026 release list so you can stay notified as the new release and the training dates move forward. I'll take questions, but I wanted to leave you with the core message. CSI Linux and the CSI-CMS are built and are being built around a very practical idea. Investigators do not just need tools. They need a workflow, they need a structure, they need documentation, they need evidence handling, they need reports that can be reviewed and defended, and that is what this platform is moving towards. The platform and the training. Building investigations that can survive review. Now, I did want to talk a little bit more about some of the certifications and training that CSI Linux offers. This is the CSI Linux Academy, but it is going through echothislabs.com. So at this point, we do have the CSI Linux Certified Investigator. This walks through some of the basics on how to use CSI Linux, some of the features, some of the coverage, and we'll be covering more on the CSI-CMS here in the future. The rest of them that are related to open source intelligence, dark web investigations, computer forensics. We have social media investigator specific. We have blockchain and cryptocurrency investigation and covert communications specialist. These 6 right here mainly focus on vendor agnostic content and open source tools. There will be a little bit about using CSI Linux to do this as well, but the majority of the content essentially is being able to use forensic mindset and do an investigation from, again, intake all the way to courtroom testimony or boardroom presentation. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at one of our more popular ones, the Computer Forensic Investigator. So each one of the certification packages are going to be $385, except for the CSI Linux Certified Investigator. That one is going to be free, but we do try to put a description of each one. So again, the certification overview. In the exam, all of our exams at this point for the certifications are going to be 85 questions, multiple questions each. As far as the self-paced training that goes along with the certifications, if you get those packages, it starts off with basics, foundations, then it goes into documents and reporting, then it goes into your actual investigation and analysis. We try to make it to where it starts from, again, foundations, getting prep set up of pre-engagement, to the intake, to the actual investigation, all the way through the end reporting, which could go to court, could go to board of directors, upper level management. It's all about getting this information and ensuring that it goes from intake to reporting in a forensically sound manner. So as we can see, this course itself, Computer Forensics, has about 50 modules in it. And that does not include the module for certification exam. You could just go in and try to take the exam and get certified, but most people go through the process of prepping for it first. And the exam is going to be taken from each one of these modules. So let's go back real quick. One of our other pretty popular ones is going to be the Open Source Intelligence Gathering, or the OSINT course. So this is a certified OSINT analyst. In same basics, we have 85 questions on this final exam for the certification. But if you're going to be going through the self-paced training, then we pushed it into modules. So foundation, laws and ethics, being able to set up your process, being able to capture content online, and then the investigation phase, all the way to the reporting. So all of these modules for the certifications, they are evolving. So if you do end up getting one of these packages for the certification, the content itself you'll have access to for about 4 years from the start of the engagement or start of the access, 4 years long, and you'll have access to any of the updates. So again, these will be updating usually on a 1 to 2 year basis or on event-driven basis if there's things that we want to add across the majority of the courses or just add more modules. So the goal for most of these courses will be about 30 to 50 modules each. So for example, blockchain and cryptocurrency, we have, again, foundation, laws, ethics, building into what the cryptocurrency is, wallets, being able to use it so it's more functional during the investigation. Covers a lot of the different cryptocurrencies that are common out there, especially Ethereum, for smart contracts and whatnot. OPSEC, case management, all the way down to, again, essentially being able to investigate these, report on them, and then put that report into layman's terms for potentially lawyers, courts, or up-level management. So if you were to get any of these, you'll actually be going to the site echothislabs.com. This is our main website where all the training is actually going to be. And a quick overview of EchoThis, or EchoThis Labs. We're trying to build a more immersive environment for a few reasons. There's a term called edutainment for being able to educate while entertaining. So we are building some extra content which ties into Lumen Radio, which is like mini courses, mini education, which will also tie into Echo This too. And within Echo This, we do have some content related to videos, some storylines, and then those are going to be built into interactive lab environments. So the building of content, even a lot of it's going to be fiction, is going to be built into kind of a hands-on immersive training simulations. Now we're going to take some time. If anybody has any questions, this would be the time to ask. So I'm going to start this off with a kind of a softball question that a lot of people ask. Do we have a Discord server? We do. I'm going to put the link in the Discord server right up on screen. And this would be for, again, community building, questions, extra content, and news of what's happening with CSI Linux. One question we do get asked quite often is about the versions of the CSI Linux platform. The two currently with the Case Management System is going to be the VMware and the VirtualBox virtual machines. We are working on trying to rebuild the bootable version, and that will have the Case Management System as well. But right now, it is the VirtualBox and the VMware. Yeah, another great question. As far as should you use a VM for a case or a VM with multiple cases, it depends on the sensitivity of the data. If you're investigating something that you definitely do not want cross-contamination with, could be a critical investigation, I generally do use an individual VM for it for two reasons. One is it eliminates the possibility of cross-contamination unless there's user error. As far as tech goes, it's a true container. The other one is, once you're done with it, you can package up the entire VM as the packaged case. And you could also send that virtual machine to other investigators if they want to see what's happened during the process, or even analyze the environment to verify things meet the Daubert standard. So it depends. Another good question, as far as, the document templates. There's a lot of document templates in CSI Linux. Within the case management system, we do have a preset list. We are modifying how the back-end reporting structure is going. So right now, we do have a handful at the very beginning, the case management tab. We are going to be moving a couple into other areas of the CMS that's more relevant to those items, like missing persons. But outside of that, we're also planning on building a more of a commercial package to help support the projects. And this will be a set of a lot more templates that are better looking. But outside that, the templates that have been in CSI Linux are still going to be there. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. The next question is ISO. We do plan on building an ISO. At this point, we do not have it yet. We had one in the past. There were some issues with the build process, so we are working on that. Once we have that, we should be able to support ARM architecture as well. But right now, it is focused on the VirtualBox, the VMware VMs, and we will have that the bootable. Those are going to be the x86, not ARM yet. But yeah, once we get the ISO completed, then we will be able to support ARM too. Yeah, now for the question about Echo This Labs. For those of you that are interested in building content, Echo This Labs, or the Echo This world, we are trying to get more community-driven content. And then going back to from the content, we're going to start building interactive scenarios. So there's definitely options there. Definitely send us an email at support@csilinux.com if you're interested in building storyline or even building some of these scenarios. A lot of the scenarios we're using Twine, so it's kind of a choose your own adventure type situation or scenario. But again, they are being built off of storyline. So yeah, writing storyline as far as books, we do have 4 different types of environments or genres. One is going to be real world, so based off of things that are actually happened or have happened. One is going to be more noir, so detective fiction. We have a cyberpunk variation for genre, and then we also have one for apocalypse, or more of an apocalyptic type genre. One of the storylines that we do have is a more of a zombie fiction. We are going to be also working on some others where disasters have already happened or occurred, but everything is essentially world building to try to build hands-on investigation scenarios for those environments. So yeah, definitely send us an email if you're interested in helping the world building process. So I did just see another question. If you're not seeing the questions in chat, this is being broadcast on multiple platforms. So we do have a few different environments. And unfortunately, sometimes those questions or the chat content doesn't go from platform to platform. Another good question about the cohorts. Yes, we will be hosting multiple cohorts. It's going to be for a couple months, most likely. And then we will move the cohort to a self-paced training and small certification for Case Management 101. But yes, as far as the cohorts are concerned, we will be having multiple ones. But I will be posting into chat the schedule for the next available, or the first one of the list. So another good question is, will CSI Linux stay free? The main platform, CSI Linux, is going to. The case management system will have a good capability built into it. There are plans on making a more robust case management system, which essentially would mean more capability, more tools, better reporting. So that is to help support the projects at CSI Linux. But as far as the base case management system, the base CSI Linux, yes. That the plan is to keep it free for any foreseeable future. But we will be building some more capabilities that would be licensed or commercial, which would also include more interactive or better dark web investigation capabilities, scraping, and things like that. I know we're running right on the 45-minute mark. We're going to be closing down here in just a second. But I definitely wanted to appreciate everybody for showing up, everybody for watching the video or listening to the basically what's new in CSI Linux in 2026 and what's new in the case management system. But absolutely, any questions, go ahead and send it to us at support@csilinux.com.